Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Welcome to the Friday, November 8th special commission meeting. Again, we have the opportunity to keep our phones quiet so we don't get interrupted. If there are, excuse me, got a voice concern right now because I swallowed my cough drop the wrong way. I'd like to note that for record that the Commissioners Bender, Blyenberg, Kipley, and myself are present. Commissioner Karski obviously has recused himself from the canvass. Just a reminder again about cell phones, and if you have public comments, you need to sign in as normal. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. To begin the agenda today, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Auditor Anderson to explain and guide us through this canvassing process. I'd also like to say right at the beginning, as I've talked to many of the people who have voted and been participating with the election process and how hard our county staff has worked, and the police department, the IT people. And I want to thank all of them right up front so that we acknowledge them and don't forget about that. If the audit... I was in a short discussion this morning, and none of us that have been present through this whole process got any complaints. So I think that's a wonderful thing to acknowledge. Auditor Anderson's going to sit at the desk because she obviously has plenty of paperwork to work through. So if you would like to start with your presentation, that'd be great.
Thank you. Leah Anderson, County Auditor. So my briefing memo was quite brief because we had a lot of work to do between when we got done tabulating and this morning. So I had to at least get a briefing memo put together that could be used on the agenda by 11 o'clock yesterday. So overall, despite the fact that, yes, this took a long time, and I know you're going to have questions about that, but overall, Minnehaha County held a very successful general election. Our voter turnout was great at about 70% based on active registered voters of 136,817. That was as of, we use active numbers instead of active and inactive when we look at turnout. We had about 28,707 absentee ballots, 66,941 election day ballots. That was prior to adding in the provisional ballots, which we'll talk about here now. We received a total of 91 provisional ballots. I have that on a spreadsheet for you guys, but this is not for public record because of the information it contains, so I will ask for these back after the meeting. So of those 91 provisionals, we had 35 ballots that could be counted based on the information that we could obtain. With that really short turnaround, it was tough for us to do deep research on these, so we'll still do some more, and if we find anything to be different between now and an expected recount, we could certainly add in those provisionals if there's other information that comes to light. So we had 35 that were counted, that were approved, and then yesterday, we had a tabulation team and a resolution board that were present to process those ballots. Those were tabulated instead of hand counted. We have two options. So since we tabulated those ballots, they are already included in your results that we are going to go through later. I know at the primary, we just had about 4 provisionals, and so I hand wrote and gave you a little snippet of a spreadsheet to count those ballots back in. So provided for you today are the election results, which are considered the Canvas abstracts. So the one that looks like the spreadsheet, that's 27 pages, is considered the abstract. And that's the one that we send to the state with the certification when we're all done. I've also provided for you a copy of the official results summary report. In addition, if you were to want to look at it, I have it printed out by precinct. That's about 300 pages front and back, though. So if you would like to look at these, I do have them. I've also provided for you today some other items in the event that you want to do any spot checking of our numbers. So we have the binders that contain the registration lists, the poll list, if you want to compare those, and I also provided recap sheets both from election day ballots and absentee. One thing I also want to point out, all those thick envelopes that are over to my right and your left on that shelf, that is that's from resolution board, all of those. So recreating in those envelopes, there's a lot of ballots that had to be recreated. We had 696 roughly, because I'm missing numbers for one precinct, of Uokava ballots that had to be recreated, and that definitely slowed us down in the resolution process. Typically, when we get, once you ask questions that you may want to ask, we'll pause for that in a second, you would compare the results from the abstract and the summary report. Typically, one person's going to read out numbers from one and compare them to the other. And I think some of that was explained in our instruction sheet that we had, which was the sheet that we included. And I guess right now I'll pause for questions before we move into that.
Do any of the commissioners have any questions currently? It appears not. So why don't we just get started with the comparison for the purpose that we were here today for? Okay,
So I'll turn that over, because you guys would do that where you would read numbers from one to the other. Okay.
Are you going to give us sample or give us some ones that you want to pull for each of us to look at, so we have something to look at rather than us doing it, or are you going to do that?
I would recommend that we go ahead and do the comparison of the abstract to the returns first, and then
Okay.
if we want to do spot checking, we can do that second.
Yeah, I wasn't planning to pull those myself. That's up to you if you would like to look at some of those results.
We'll start with the presidential election. And I'm assuming we'll go with total votes, obviously. And I'll read through each one of these. We have total votes cast of 93,986. 39,923 of them were for the Democratic candidates, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. The Libertarian group of 673 votes to Chase Oliver, and, excuse the name, Mike Termat.
That was 673.
I didn't say that? Oh, I can't read either. We have 51,842 votes for the Republican candidates of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, and then 1,548 votes for the independent candidate of Robert Kennedy Jr. and Nicole Shanahan. Everybody comfortable with that?
I agree.
Okay, thank you. And we'll go to the United States Representative. We had 92,319 votes cast. The Democratic candidate was Cheryl Johnson, 32,303. And the Republican candidate, Dusty Johnson, of 60,016 votes.
Agreed?
Agreed? Public Utilities Commissioner, we had 87,633 votes cast. The Democratic candidate, Forrest Wilson, had 25,587. We had
28,587?
28,587. I think my cough drops are getting to me. A Libertarian candidate of Gideon Oaks of 4,346 votes. And the Republican candidate of Christy Fegan of 54,700 votes.
Correct.
Correct? We're on page 2 or 3 of the general election report. This is for State Senator District 2. We have Representative Steve Kolbeck, who had all 10,337 votes. District number 9 is, Representative Joy Hone of 8,137 votes, the only candidates. On State Senator District 10, we have Democrat Liz Larson, 5,606 votes. If anybody has any corrections for me as we go on these single candidates, let me know. State Senator District 11, we have 11,543 votes. Democrat Steve Natz had 4,747 votes. Excuse me again. Republican Chris Carr, 6,796 votes. Agreed?
Correct.
State Senator District 12, we had 5,583 votes. There were 2,859 votes for Clay Huffman, and for Arch Beal, 2,724 votes. We good?
Correct.
Thank you. State Senator District 13, we had a total votes cast of 3,304 votes. Democrat Ollie Ray Horsted of total vote of 1,669, and Representative Sue Peterson of 1,635. We good? State Senator District 14, there's 13,063 votes. Democrat Sandra Henry had 5,936 votes. Excuse me. Republican Larry Zickman had 7,127 votes. State Senator District 15, Democrat Jamie Smith had 5,052 votes, and Brenda Lawrence with the Republican 4,582 votes for total votes cast of 9,634 votes. We're good with those? Yes. State Senator District 25, votes cast of 10,256. Democrat Brian Worth had 2,672. Republican Tom Pesky, 7,584 votes.
Correct.
In District 2, State Representative, total votes cast of 16,631. Representative Dave Cull had 8,239 votes. And Representative John, I'm going to butcher this, Sajarda, of 8,392 votes. correct? State Senate Representative, District 9, we had 17,036 votes cast. Democrat Beverly Frostley Johnson had 4,003 votes. Bethany Soy, 6,473 votes. And Tessa Schwan, 6,560 votes. We're good?
Correct.
State Representative District 10, we had 13,417 votes cast. Democrat Cameron Nelson had 4,045. Democrat Aaron Healy, 5,138 votes. And Representative Bobby Andrea, 4,234 votes.
Correct.
We
Yes.
good? Excuse me again. State Representative, District 11, Democrat Aaron Matson, 4,261 votes. Democrat Sonia Mentzer, 4,599 votes. Republican Carrie K. Reams, 5,926 votes. And Republican Brian Mulder, 6,235 votes, for a total vote cast of 21,021 votes.
Correct.
State Representative District 12, we had 10,178 votes. Democrat Aaron Royer, 2,610. Democrat J.R. Anderson, 2,148. Republican Amber Arlant, 2,730, and Representative Greg Jamison, 2,690 votes. In District 13, we had 3,202 votes. Representative Tony Van Huzen, 1,543 votes, and Representative John Hughes, 1,659 votes. We're good with that?
Yes.
District 14, we had 23,466 votes. Excuse me. Democrat Keith Block, 4,991 votes. Democrat B.J. Motley, 4,253 votes. Representative Taylor Ray Rayfelt, 7,833 votes. And Representative Tony Kaiser, 6,389 votes. We're okay?
Yes.
In District 15, we had total votes cast of 17,190 votes. Democrat Eric Mucky, 4,364. Democrat Caden Whitman, 4,551. Republican Joni Cheddar, 4,357. And Representative Brad Lindworm, 3,914. You're right, 3,918. I'm just seeing if you guys are awake. Next, State Representative, District 25, Republican Les Heineman, 5,581 votes. Representative John Hanson, 6,662 votes, for a total votes cast of 12,243. Commissioner at Large, we had 116,086 votes. Representative Dean Karski, 44,267. Representative Cole Heisey, 43,473. And Independent Annie, excuse me again, Libengood, 28,346.
Correct.
We're good? Supreme Court Justice retention, total cast votes of 75,903. Yes votes for 58,811, and no votes 17,092. We good?
Yes.
East Dakota Water District Director, Area 4, Richard Bonander, 5,461 votes, and Bonnie Dibadal, 5,165 votes, for a total vote cast of 10,626. Constitutional Amendment E, total votes cast 92,387. Yes votes 46,231. No votes 46,156.
Yes. Correct.
Constitutional Amendment F, we had 91,837 votes cast. Yes, 49,529. No, 42,308. We're good?
Correct.
Constitutional Amendment G, total votes cast 93,547. We had yes votes of 45,627, no votes of 47,920.
Correct.
Constitutional Amendment H, we had total votes cast of 89,186, yes votes 33,463, and no votes 55,723.
Correct.
Initiated measure number 28, we had 91,609 votes. Yes votes 31,691. No votes 59,918. Correct? Initiated measure 29, 93,494 votes cast. Yes, 48,055 votes. No, 45,439.
Correct.
Referred Law 21, we had 88,249 votes cast. Yes, 38,113. No, 50,136.
Correct.
So total votes cast on election day precincts were, again, 95,683. Of that, 66,976 for election day, and absentee was 28,707. We had 11 ballots cast that were blank, 7 from election day, 4 absentee, for a total vote turnout of just over 70%. Questions? Get back to my sheet. Just want to, go ahead.
Oh, I was just waiting for you. There is a certification sheet that you'll
Right.
need to sign to go with that, and we will attach the abstract to that and send it to the state today.
Will that be posted on our website also then?
Our results are already posted.
Okay.
I don't think we've posted the abstract before. We certainly could. The abstract gets posted on the Secretary of State's website.
I think that's fine. The provisional ballots are also accounted for today, correct?
Yes, as I explained earlier, the 35 provisional ballots were tabulated yesterday, and they were included in these reports that you just went through. So those votes have been included in those totals.
I think we would like you to select 4 precincts and furnish those to the 4 commissioners that we can do a audit review, if you will.
Sure.
Chair. If possible, I'd like each one of the commissioners to choose which precinct
Oh,
instead of
sure.
having
That's-
the auditor choose.
I thought we would get you involved and do at
Well, I
least
can
one of them.
assist you in looking, but if you want to pick what numbers, I can assist you in getting those.
I think we'd like to have you pick one too.
Okay.
I think makes sense.
Perfect. You want to give us some directions?
If you can give me your precinct numbers you'd like to look at, I can pull those.
Mr. Chair, I'll go first on the line. I'll just take 104 right off the top.
We'll get these pulled and then I'll just make
Mm-hmm. Mr. Chair, I'll
Yes.
pick 0413.
I'll go ahead and pick 0416.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll do 0501.
When you pull 416, there's one.
Thank you.
Did you guys put all that in the binder?
This is my binder. This is your binder.
Did you give her all of 416?
I gave that full binder.
There was some stuff, there's some more paperwork for her.
Thank you.
So this is a more complicated one. This is all of absentee, and that is election day. So you're gonna need, this would go with election day, and this would go with absentee. And do you want me to pull one as well, you said?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so with mine, I'll walk you through what you're looking at.
That would be great.
I'm kind of going to take you through the process. Hopefully that'll be in the right spot. Okay, so your binder itself is a registration list. This is the binder that goes out to the precinct and is the binder that they look up the voter's name in. And then they write that name on the poll list, which inside the cover of the binder cover, you're going to find two poll lists. In Jean's case, you have a lot more, but typically you would have two poll lists. The one that has an A, and then there's another registration list, that's for absentee. So if you'll set that aside for a moment and just look at the poll list without the A, and then your binder. So what the workers do is they record the person's name in the poll list, matching a line number. So for instance, in mine, I have line number 1, I won't say the full name, but it's a lady by the name of Nicole. And they would look up her name in this binder and write that number in the binder. So that's why the numbers are supposed to correspond with each other. So just a quick explanation on that. When election day ballots come back to us up here, we are looking for this pink recap sheet that's this color pink. And a lot of these are very messy and not very well done sometimes, but we try to look for the numbers. We go through and reconcile the numbers on this sheet and make sure that what's on this sheet is going to represent the ballots that were tabulated. You'll notice on the back of the sheet, the tabulation workers hopefully wrote their tabulation totals on the back. We're looking for those numbers to be close. Within 5 is an acceptable amount in a normal election. This election was quite large. So if there's a difference, what we try to do then is look at this poll list and try to figure out if there were mistakes made. Some of our workers, what we noticed on election night were that they wrote names in here twice or more than one time if they gave them a spoiled ballot, for instance, which they weren't supposed to do. We didn't instruct them to do that. We instructed them to only write the name in here one time. But that's what we do. Myself, Dawn from IT, and Jeremy from the city, we were working on these reconciliations during election night. So hopefully, if you have any differences between the tabulation total and the front of the sheet, they were minimal. Do any of you have one that's off by more than 5? Okay. So that's election day. Any questions on those yet?
Any questions on those? Commissioner Bleinberg?
Chair, I'm not sure I follow the back of the recap sheet. Can you explain that to me?
Well, some people did not do well on instruction on the back of the recap sheet. So if there's ballots, so the election workers, the precinct workers are the ones that do the front of the sheet, and then they're supposed to sign that right here. If there's any reconciling that needs to happen on the back of the sheet, for instance, if a ballot was missing a stamp and we couldn't count it, they would subtract that ballot off and come up with a new total. Some other items that, if there's other discrepancies, they would also list those. Usually, all ballots are counted, even if there's an overvote or if it has to go to resolution, they correct the ballot, and then the ballot is counted properly. Missing stamp ballots cannot be counted at all, so those would have to be subtracted. But somewhere on the back of the sheet, hopefully, or they may have done it on the front, just down in the corner if they didn't have any corrections. You'll notice maybe some notes down in the right corner. That would be where they should have verified that total when they were tabulating.
Okay.
Does yours have any discrepancies? I can approach and look if you want me to.
Is that, sure,
Go right ahead.
yeah.
Okay. So they didn't notate it well, but likely there were missing stamps or, let's see.
The wrong precinct ballot, didn't it?
Oh, the wrong precinct, okay. So in this case, this is likely a precinct. In Jen's case, likely, this is a location where there were more than one precinct, and they may have put the ballot in the wrong box. These would have gotten transferred to the other related precinct to be processed, because we make sure we run those together. So that's why they changed that.
So I can confirm that on here.
Not necessarily. We
Okay.
would want to pull the related one.
Okay.
So I'd have to look up and see which one that is.
Okay. Thank
So
you for
we
that
can certainly
explanation.
pull that, but-
Anyone else have any questions? Commissioner Bender?
some help on the absentee ones for
Oh,
my
yeah,
precinct.
we'll get to absentee here
Okay.
quickly. Any other questions on election day, how that process is working?
Commissioner Kipley, you have anything?
No, mine reconciles out for election day.
Okay. Can we go to the absentee ballots then, please?
Okay, so absentee is slightly different. When the absentee board is processing absentee ballots, there are a lot of steps. But when they're getting, so their first step is they take their registration list as well. So they treat it just like election day. They look up the voter on the registration list. They write them in the poll list, just like we would if they were coming in person. Just to share, this takes a lot of time to process absentee ballots because they sit at the table just like if they were at the precinct and go through the exact same process if those people were coming up to them in line, but they're using an envelope. So they're holding up an envelope, looking at the name and the precinct number and identifying it on the registration list and then writing it into the poll list. Then those ballots, again, I mentioned the Uwakava ones. So if they have any ballots, Uwakava ballots that have to be recreated, they send those to the resolution board and the resolution board recreates those ballots. And then once that's all done, there's a recap sheet that's prepared for those ballots before they get tabulated. So in the case of the one that I have, and I'll help you, Jean, in just a minute, because yours is complicated. I have 214 is the one I pulled. So I have a count of 562. So you'll notice on column A, that's the count from the table that's been working on those ballots. And then column B is the actual count from the tabulation crew. And then you should be able to look into the poll list and verify that that's the number of people that were written in the poll list. The one that Jean has is 416, and it's quite large for absentee. So we had various tables working on that precinct because it was so large. So you'll notice you're going to have a couple different poll lists, and then on the front of one of the poll lists, since we were having duplicate numbers, they wrote N because they were working on alphabet N through R. And then on another one, it started with S. There's a page that's tucked inside that's the S poll list. So if all of those numbers were added up, they will equal your recap sheet, the pink sheet. And if you'd like, I can come up and help you on that.
Invite you to do so.
Okay.
So it looks like all the S ones were included in this first grouping, which has 1,136.
Okay, so her, let me unclip these, that might be easier. So this is the first poll list that you had. It doesn't have, this was before we decided to break it up. So this poll list goes up to 1,136. And there's going to be all alphabets in here because these came out in throughout the day. We had ballots coming in. So this would be one total. And then this one, I'm going to take this sheet out. This was in the book of N. That's how we labeled it. This one has where we ended on, I can't read that number. upside down.
556.
56, okay. And then the last one, we labeled it Book of S, but it wasn't necessarily S alphabet. These were what we call the stragglers. So if you, on the back of your registration list, there's some handwritten registration lists, the ones that come in after we print this in the morning, because during the day we would have received a lot by mail. So there's going to be more pages back here where we had to handwrite those in. So if you were to add these 46, the 500 and something here and this total. So we have 1,136. We have 46. And we have 556. You should come up with 1,007, actually 1,732 was what they came up with on the original tabulation, and then there were two, I'm trying to look at this one
Yeah, that's
upside
okay.
down.
And I got a different number
Okay.
than all of those. so.
Okay. And this is why we have a variance, because we try to make sure that we are close, but on election night, if it's under 5 or in a reasonable amount, we're not digging into it right then and there.
Okay.
So typically, if I would have had more time between election and the canvas, like I did for the primary, I went through all of this and put together a spreadsheet and reconciled all those differences and figured out why there was a difference, but I didn't quite have time to do that this week. So,
So I got 1,738, which is
yep.
within
So the
that five.
tabulation total was 1,735.
But that doesn't, so the numbers that are listed here on the sheet
Oh,
do
okay.
not add up
Because there's
that
more
number.
sheets.
Okay, so you had to add all of those
We had to
sheets.
take, this one is duplicating over to here. Since we had 3 tables going, this one got quite complicated. But there's sheets for every one, and then these were the worksheets from the table.
So I should be able to add up all of the pink sheets other than the cover sheet and also get that same number? Is that what you're telling me?
So you added these and they didn't come up to this number?
Right, but it might have been that they came up to the number that I'm getting when I add them all up. Let me try again. I want to keep a number somewhere. All right, here we go. Okay. And this one, when I add up those numbers, I
So
get,
that's 1734, and there were two spoiled ballots.
okay.
So the 1732 that's here is what these add up to, but the tabulation was 1735, which is closer to your 1738.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yes.
I just have one question too, if you just, I have 3 handwritten at the very end,
Yes.
which obviously totals what I have on the sheet. So the totals are right, but why would there be 3 written and the rest 313 of them be?
Because we print these lists in the morning, on election day morning, and we have ballots that can be dropped off up until 7 PM on election day.
Okay, but why wouldn't they be on the,
They're not on the list because we weren't able to record them on the list because they came in after we printed the list.
okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anyone else have any questions? Commissioner Blindberg?
How many ballots did we have this year that didn't have a stamp on them? I think you told us in June. Oh, and
I haven't reconciled, that's part of what I would do with that spreadsheet. There weren't a lot. I would say I was very pleased that it was pretty rare that we had a ballot that was missing a stamp. Some ballots, the stamp wasn't in the box quite well, and so the machine might have kicked it out initially, but then we were able to correct that in resolution. But I think maybe that I recall just a handful of ballots that were missing a stamp.
okay.
Chair, if I may.
Yes.
So I would note that at mine, where most of them were cast absentee, I had a relatively high percentage of those with unstamped ballots. So I was wondering about that.
Well, I think there were 2 spoiled ballots, but those ballots all get stamped here. So they are not,
In person. Of the in-person.
Oh, the
3
in-person.
lacked a stamp out of the 24 cast.
okay.
That's what I meant by a high percentage. is
Okay.
of the ones cast
Actually,
in
on that one, what really happened is the stamp was the wrong stamp. So they stamped it with, they had 2 precincts, and they stamped it with the wrong stamp. Most likely, I think that was more of what happened. So it was missing the 416 stamp and likely got the 45. Of those 3, I know of probably 1 that was that way. I don't know if all of them were that way.
Okay, thank you.
We went over in training quite extensively the importance of the ballot stamp this time. And I don't recall seeing a single express vote ballot that didn't have a ballot stamp this time. And that was our biggest problem in the primary.
I guess my question would be, with the information you gave us and the small discrepancies that you've explained, is there anything else that you would like to add to those discrepancies that you had concerns about?
Not concerns about the discrepancies. I would say, as always, I have concerns about the recap sheets not getting completed properly when they are leaving or at the precinct level. I tried to simplify that recap sheet as best as I could, but staying with administrative rule so that people could do a better job on their recap sheet. And I would say it was way better this time than even in the primary. I didn't do all the recap sheets myself personally. Like I said, I had 2 other people assisting, and we had maybe 3 that were very difficult to go through and reconcile.
So do you have any reasoning why that one was so difficult?
Oh, no, I can't without talking to the superintendent at this point. And, you know, when we're doing this and it's the middle of the night, I can't call the superintendent and ask them to help walk me through what they did. That's why this time for this election, we went ahead and we were proactive in pulling the poll list and bringing them up here right away so that we would have them available in case there was a discrepancy so that we could look at their poll list and figure that out. So I considering as many ballots as we were working with that night, I was very pleased at how that process went and how they reconciled pretty well. And we did not have a lot of errors when it came to the reconciliation process. Now, that's a little different if we move on to what happened with resolution.
I want to make sure that the commissioners all have the opportunity. If there's any other questions they can ask at this point, I think we're good.
Okay, and we'll collect those after the meeting, so we don't take up time doing that right now. As always, if you have questions later, I am always available. And then also, I will still work on that recap balance sheet because I like to do that and make sure everything is good. But that will take me a little bit of time to pull together. All right.
Have we been asked yet about any close precincts being recounted?
Yes, we have one that is very close. I believe it's now within 7 votes. And that would be there hasn't been anything officially filed. I believe that candidate is in the audience, and we've visited about a recount. Her race is 7 votes apart. It would be District 15, and it is for the House race, and that would be for Joni Cheddar. And we've talked, and she can't file her request for recount until after we complete our canvass today.
And they have how many days to do that?
The candidate, if they're in our county only as a legislative candidate, has 3 days after our canvass to submit their request. I have some of that right here.
3 working days or 3 physical days?
I'm reading. Hang on just a sec. Technically, it says deadline to file is within 3 days after official county canvass. I would
But we
defer
have
to
a
our
halt day
legal.
on Monday, so.
Right. I defer to our legal counsel for that. Okay.
3 business.
So, and that would begin on Tuesday, is that correct? So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday by end of business?
I think he's looking up at the law.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to ask now for some public input and comments. We're here today just to do the, I guess, certification of the votes. We'll probably, in the near future, put on the agenda to talk about the processes that we might still have questions about, or any of the activities on the absentee ballots or the vote that we had on Tuesday. For public comment, you're limited to 3 minutes like normal. Please keep the comments about the agenda items. If there's a lot of people that would like to make comments, I'd kind of like to know that ahead of time. So would you raise your hand so I have some idea how many people? Okay, thank you very much. And if you have a spokesperson that wants to speak also, that obviously is good. So we'll start with the first person, and you please identify yourself, and again, make sure that you're signed in. Thank you.
Good morning, Jessica Palama, Minnehaha County. I just wanted to point out all of these binders and the envelopes and all of the certification that you're doing now, just so the general public and the fake news understands that this is a tabulation of the numbers of pieces of paper. All of this reconciliation is only reconciling ballots. It's not reconciling any votes. There's never not been any independent check of the number of votes. And until Leah ran the first post-election audit ever, there never has been a reconciliation like this for the number of votes. So just so everybody knows, this is a ministerial function that they're certifying the number of pieces of paper reconcile, not the votes. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jean Childs, and I live in Lincoln County. Okay. Election night, November 5th. I observed the process for approximately 4 hours. They were preparing the absentee ballots to be counted by the tabulators. I observed the 4 resolution teams, and I observed what I could of what was happening in the tabulators. And I witnessed Leah Anderson and Mike Mathis and their tremendous dedication and their staff. I am grateful for Leah, Mike, and the staff and the volunteers who made our election process work no matter what. The counting process of absentee ballots was a long and tedious process. Leah, Mike, and other staff worked 33 hours plus straight through the night. 33 hours straight. Leah was very patient and cooperative with the media interviews. Though she didn't really have time, she gave them the utmost respect and kindness. Hand counting ballots at the precincts would have taken approximately 5 hours. And minimizing absentee ballots would be a really helpful thing in the future. Early voting ending the day before Election Day was not so good, not giving enough time before Election Day begins. Thank you.
My name is Julianne Perigo Talkington, and I would just like to compliment everybody involved in this process. I was serving in the polls I've worked as a poll watcher and also as a deputy and twice as a superintendent. I was very impressed with pretty much everything. The training I thought was very helpful. I happened to be in a poll that had some people from the Department of Justice, as well as somebody who was quite predatory from another organization. I was well supported by the auditor and her staff, so I felt very well supported. Then I also had, I guess you would call it, the good fortune of seeing what was going on behind the scenes. I was here for about an hour and a half, starting at 12:15 to 1:45 in the morning. I was shocked. I'm an engineer by training. I've run some pretty complicated projects. And this is one of the best run operations I've seen. Everybody knew exactly what they were supposed to be doing. And Leah was managing people who don't do this for a living. So she was very patient, very kind. Her staff was very kind. I just can't speak highly enough about the process. And I know you all have been involved in this whole process as well, and so thank you. And one last comment. I know there's been some kind of bad press that's saying that Leo was not as fast as Florida. I lived in Florida. I've seen the process there. I actually think Minnehaha County is leading the country right now. The way that the ballots are handled there, it's all electronic. They're not any double checking. If somebody's elderly and cannot process the ballot, there's no resolution of those ballots. So I'm super happy that we can accommodate people with handicaps and who are elderly, and that there's a process. So thank you very much, everybody.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Coonery, and as a resident of Minnehaha County, I've personally witnessed the Minnehaha County Auditor, Leah Anderson, her staff, and Minnehaha County citizen volunteers who cared enough to show up in over hundreds of hours over the course of the past primary and post-election audit, and now in this 2024 general election. And I've seen nothing except dedicated, hardworking professionals and volunteers doing one heck of a job in spite of some difficulties they've been facing. And I want to say thank you, a sincere thank you to Auditor Leah Anderson, her whole staff, Mike, and I know David, and there was a Gene here that was one of the people on the tabulator that we in the reconciliation board were helping on Wednesday morning, and they had a good spirit, smiles though tired, and they did a tremendous job. And I know that they worked sleepless days and nights, and I just want to thank these individuals, and I'm honored to know them. And I also want to just share, as you read earlier in District 15, and if Joni Cheddar's here. Obviously 7 votes, very close. And that's one of the reasons why we've shared such things with you, because you are all here ready to certify this. And we've, since I last was here, had shared the numbers with the county detective who is, and thank you, Commissioner Bender, for checking on it and seeing that there is actually an open case about this. And to the date of the 25th, I don't have yet tabulated all of the data through the election. But in this district alone, District 15, over 39% of the absentee mail-in and Uvukava ballots were from people who did not live where they said. They are registered as mail forwarding address, a hotel, which we've canvassed in the last few months, or a campground. And in spite of the fact that some would say It's for economic reasons. I don't believe that there's ever a reason to disenfranchise people who are actually residents here. But I thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. God bless you all. Thank you.
My name is Penny Baybridge, and I live here in County. I just wanted to tell you my experience as a voter this time. In 2022, in the general election, it was total chaos at the precinct that I was at. It was the instructional planning center. There was 3 doors going into this main room, and it just had numbers there, and people walked in. We didn't know what our precinct number was. And I'd say, well, come to the table. And so they'd look and they'd say, well, yes, you belong here, and no, you don't. But then they wouldn't tell you where to go. At one point, I was at the table I was supposed to be, and a man came up and put his hands on the table and said, this has to be the right place. I've checked the other tables. It was just kind of a mass of people, and the voting was all in the center of the room, and people were confused what box they're supposed to go to. I was stunned at the proficiency and the level of change that happened in my precinct when I went to vote. So on the morning of the election, I went there, and my husband cannot stand, and the line was kind of out the door. So he waited in the car, and I went inside to get permission to have him sit somewhere. And in the instructional planning center, you went in and you were going around the outside of the room, and there's chairs sitting in the middle. And so you could go and sit in the chairs. So for handicapped people, that was great ability for them to sit while I was in line and got up to the front. When I looked into the room, what was happening was every few minutes, a supervisor came in the room and said, if you don't know what your precinct is, this line is for this precinct number, this is for this. If you don't know what it is, there's a squiggle box. I don't know what they call those, QR codes or something. I call them squiggle boxes. You can put your phone on it, and it'll tell you which precinct it was. So they were letting people know right away what line it was, and every few minutes they would come out and tell. And I looked into the room as we're coming in both the center doors. They had a table on one side and a table on the other, and the center was handicapped machines. So the voters would come into the table, get their ballots, go over to their side and vote, and then go into the where the ballot box is and go out these outside doors. It was so organized, so well done. And I can't believe I did it. I spoiled my ballot when I was trying to do it, put my pen in the wrong spot. So I had to get a spoiled ballot. And the supervisor was standing there, and I said, I spoiled it. So he goes, no problem, I can take care of it. And he got me a new ballot. And I had to compliment him when I was getting ready to leave. I go, I'm just amazed at how well you're doing this. He goes, yeah, they gave us an extra person. So I could be free to go out and take care of the people. A supervisor cannot supervise if they're busy, being part of that line. So giving that extra person to them and I noticed that in several locations that I went to visit, having that extra person in there gave the supervisor the ability to do their job and not be busy trying to just pass things through. So I just wanted to know, it was a great experience, and I think the level of professionalism was great. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Rian Ullum. I am a resident of Minnehaha County, and I helped process absentee ballots on Election Day. I was here for 17 plus hours, not the 33. I would have stayed if I could, but I could no longer write and keep my eyes straight. I also want to thank Leah and staff for an incredible job. As you guys were canvassing your precincts, I don't know out and about in the city what the biggest precinct was, but imagine being over here. How many voters showed up? There was over 28,000, did you say? So that's a lot. We're going through the same process as they are out in the precincts, but we're doing it over here in this room, and it takes a lot of time. I want to say I did come help when we did the hand count, the total hand count canvas or recount. They made us sign every single sheet of paper every single time. This time we only had to sign one oath and a timesheet, and that saved a lot of time. I've heard complaints about it taking too long. Hopefully this makes a little more sense now that you've seen what goes on and why it took so long. Those that are complaining that it took so long, I invite you to come and learn what it's all about and actually be involved and try it once. Do your civic duty. I was presented with the infamous 416. I could not count it with a clear conscience. I have a problem with these PMB mail forwarding places. If you look at a voter registration that everyone is to fill out, on it, residence, address, required. There was over 4,700 ballots from that precinct. Tell me how many people can live in that mail forwarding post office box. I couldn't do it. I felt terrible pushing it on to somebody else. And it's not that I don't want those people to have valid, those people should be able to vote. But my freedom is worth a lot more than tax dollars. To me, it's invaluable. Those people who are getting their licenses here are not living here, are not buying goods here. They don't have property here. If they're not living here, maybe they do, maybe they rent it out. But to me, it's a lot more than tax dollars. I don't know what the answer is for that. Maybe just a federal ballot. I saw a few of those come through, which was very interesting, a write-in. I'm like, I have never seen this before. So anyway, I just wanted to give my point of view. Again, thank you, Leah. Thank you, everyone who volunteered that day. I wish more people would get involved. And maybe an answer also is, because the absentee takes so long, shorten the time. 45 days or whatever it is way too long. Thank you.
Any other comments? Sorry, any other comments? Doesn't appear. Thank you for that. Are any questions or comments from the commissioners before we go to the certification?
Well, if you're asking, I would like to chime in on your earlier comments and just thank all the many people that work so hard to make for a successful election. And many of them are in this room. A number of them aren't, and I want to make sure that they're recognized too. We had sheriff's deputies that were out delivering things, and there were lots of people, a lot of county employees that volunteered their time as well. And so I just would really like to thank everybody for that.
Any other comments? I will just say, and I'm sure that some of you have the same issues that I have heard, but our goal is to be accurate, not fast. And if some people are concerned about the time that it takes, we have to have priorities, and that priority is this, not speed, but accuracy. So I want to make sure that you understand that. Some of the questions or concerns that you have are not county commission related issues. They are legislative issues, and that's where this needs to go if you have concerns. But as a whole, I do want to make sure that we do thank everybody again for the time that they've put in, because as I've heard from others, 33 hours straight is incredible, and it's almost ridiculous that we would do that. But we'll figure that out, and we'll review the processes and procedures in the next few weeks just to make sure that we can make more improvements if necessary. With that, I would like to ask for a motion to certify the results of the November 5th, 2024 general election from the commission.
If I could make one more comment, and then I'll make that motion. I would like to just emphasize what you just said. I think we have a history, since I've been on the commission anyway, of post-election review, particularly in these big elections where there's a presidential election or a gubernatorial election. And I would be very supportive of having the auditor come back, give her a couple weeks to get her feet under her again, but to come back and review the process, What did we learn? What could we do better? There's always things we could do better. And, what changes would we like to see before we have another election? So I would be very supportive of that.
Thank you.
And with that, I'd make a motion to certify the canvas.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need to do individual votes? Do you want to call those, please?
Bender,
Yes.
Bleinberg,
Yes.
Kipley,
Aye.
Benega.
Yes, motion unanimously passes. We do need to sign these certificates that I think Kim has, and she'll pass those along so that we have written proof. Any other comments for the public? Other than that, we will make a motion to adjourn. Oh, hold it. Oh, I have to read too.
I
Yep.
think, item number
Yep.
3 on the agenda.
I skipped over, I'm sorry. Yep. We'll go to that. If you have comments, please.
Actually, no, not comments about that, just that we have the other item about the post-election audit. So when you're ready, I'll start.
Go ahead.
Okay, so our post-election audit is required per state law to happen within 15 days following the completion of the state canvassing. The state canvassing will be held on Tuesday. I don't know what time their canvass is at this point. So we would have 15 days past that. Originally, I was going to try to do the post-election audit on the 14th of the month. That is too soon because I have to pull together a board for that as well. So our date for having the post-election audit will be November 21st in the training room. We will start at 8:30 with training, and then the audit will begin once the training is completed. We will be putting together a board that is sufficient to complete the task in a day, because we can't leave, as we found out last time. I am, with some things that we learned from the prior post-election audit, so what we're going to do today is draw for the 5%, the minimum requirement, the 5% with the 2 races. The audit board is still going to be approximately the size that it was for the post-election audit, which was 10 5-member teams. So our board will be 50 people plus the 2 superintendents, and we will use some of our staff to assist with to be assistants for whatever they need. The reason we're just doing the 5%, the minimal one, is we have a much larger election this time, so it's going to take time to get through it. And we are limited in space, and that's something that we'll probably talk about when we do this post-election review, is the space that we have up here to work with for that. So we are going to just be drawing for the minimum. I was hoping to do a larger post-election audit, and I know I talked about that previously. But also, since the state only reimburses for the 5% and the 2 races, we are going to follow the state's guidelines for this post-election audit. If time permits with our board, or if also, as it's written in administrative rule, if we find errors, then we are allowed to expand that audit. So if there are errors, if we're running across differences that are not immaterial, we would expand that audit to the best of our ability with the time frame that we would have allowed and the people that we have serving. So what I have today, there really isn't an action on your part for the post-election audit, but I am required to do my drawing, and it has to be a manual drawing. And so I have a bowl. It It's not for salad. In this bowl currently, I have all the precincts that we will be drawing. So first we draw 5% of our precincts. And what that would look like is approximately 5 precincts because it's 4 point something. So I have those in here. I am going to just have one of you do some of the drawings out of here. I'm mixing them up. So first we will draw 5 precincts. Then we'll take these out. And then I have the races on sheets of paper. And what we're required to do is first only draw from statewide races. So that would be our ballot questions, our presidential, and our U.S. representative would go into there for the statewide races. And then once we draw one of those, we place all of the races in the bowl, and we can draw one more race. And so we could end up theoretically with 2 statewide races, or we could end up with a statewide and say the water district, or it could be any race. So these will not go in the bowl until we draw the precincts out. Does anybody have questions?
Anybody have any questions? Sounds like a mini lottery to me.
Well, yeah.
Who gets to pick these? We could let Tom do it.
Well,
We each could do that.
you can each, well, let's see. We have the 4 members, and Kim, you can be the
And
5th.
him, he's our state's attorney, he can do that.
I'm trying, some of these are getting caught in between each other, so I'm trying to separate them. There really was not a easy way to do this, so. And you can mix them up again after you draw. And you can just turn it too. Okay, and I'll have him record, I'll also record the numbers that you've picked, if you guys can read those off.
Mr. Chair, I was first here. I grabbed precinct 0509.
Mr. Chair, 0317.
I have precinct VP 13.
I drew precinct 0209.
And I do precinct 0405.
So we're good with that?
Thank you for not picking 416, Jean. Okay, so that's good. We'll switch out our papers.
Any other questions? If not, anyone else
I
have
think
any?
we have another,
We have to draw, sorry,
Oh,
we have to
that's
do the
right.
races now. So I am putting in here Amendment F. It was a statewide. Amendment G. Initiated Measure 28. Amendment H. Initiated Measure 29. Referred Law 21. Amendment E. The United States Representative. Oh, and I also, was the Supreme Court retention statewide? That's a statewide also. And the presidential. So only one of these needs to be drawn. Who would like to be the drawer?
The PUC statewide as well.
That is, I have it right here. Did I miss any? What I have left is state representative, state senator, so those would be local, county commissioner, and water development district. Yeah.
The chair. We all are unanimous.
It's the only thing I got right today. Yep. United States Representative.
All right, and then what we do, I'm gonna write that down. So then we leave those in the bowl and we add county commissioner, water development district, state senator, state representative. So the way that would work is, depending on which precinct, we would pick that, either the rep or the Senate race. Next again.
Initiated Measure 28.
So that's all I have for the post-election audit. If any of you have questions on that, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anyone have any questions? No? Commissioner Blindberg?
Thank you, Chair. I was curious how we did this in June.
So in June, we didn't do the drawing because we did a 100% audit. And so there wasn't a need to do the drawing.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
That's all I have.
Any questions from the commissioners at this point? Any other opportunities for public comment? Again, the same rules apply as all the other open.
Well, my comments are not Canvas specific related, they're more election related. And I would like to thank Commissioner Benega for reporting that they had no complaints. And I wanted to repeat that because our news media seems to have selective hearing. I wanted to make sure that they picked up on that. And the other thing I want to report on is the news media reporting of our elections. They seem to want to throw this administration under the bus. And I would like to remind them, in the 2020 and the 2022 elections, they used non-certified HP laptop for the EMS system, which is a federal and state law violation. And that's on the left side of the screen. The right side shows the how they corrected that. A new Dell laptop was ordered from ES&S. They used non-certified flash drives for election downloads, which is federal and state law violation. And that was corrected by using an EAC certified and serialized Delkin flash drives only. There were security procedure violations contaminating the hardened EMS system, a violation of state law. And that was corrected using flash drive transfers one-way only, single-use flash drives. There was non-compliant logic and accuracy testing. And Minnehaha County was the only county in the state that complied with law 12-17B-5.1. Previously, they said CVRs don't exist. They didn't even know what a CVR was, which is a violation of ES&S contracts. We paid money for that. This administration used CVRs for actual auditing. The previous administration said ballot images don't exist. These ballot images were saved, preserved, and reviewed currently. Previously, registered voters were put on with no review for accuracy or completeness, and this was done with the Secretary of State's endorsement. Leah went against that and carefully reviewed voter registrations for accuracy and completeness, ensuring our elections are secure. Before, there were many split precincts causing problems. Leah and her staff put in an enormous amount of work to reduce the split precincts. Because of this, there was confusion at the split precincts with wrong ballot stamps, ballots inserted into wrong precinct ballot boxes. So that was fixed by intentionally having division of the precinct, improved signage, precinct greeters to direct traffic, and specific instructions for election workers in specific split precincts. Absentee ballot drop boxes were used before. That's a state law violation. Currently, Leah had no absentee ballot drop boxes. And there was a failure to preserve drop box surveillance video, which is a federal and state law violation. This time, we conducted the first ever 100% post-election audit with improved tally sheets and well-trained superintendents. There was a failure to preserve election records previously. This time, all records were captured and preserved in compliance with federal and state law. There was a failure to notify county party chairs of election dates. That was done this time. Previously, they stored equipment and election records in multiple insecure locations with access by an unknown number of county workers. This is an EAC, which is Election Assistance Commission management violation. That was also corrected. Previously, they operated EMS with no training on audit tools or full functionality. Again, the county paid for that, and this time, Leah demanded that her staff be trained on that. And because of that, she requested additional comprehensive training, including CVRs and audit logs. And I might add, because she called them out on that, it appears that in retaliation, ES&S refused to offer support on the night of election. And it was previously stated that the news media reported that Florida did a much better job than we did. They had to go all the way to Florida, and yet they never reported on maybe who we did a better job of. So I think the news media should do a little more research before they report it. Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chair, Jessica Palama. Okay, so my comments are specifically related to the media reporting of the election, and in particular, Kiloland News. So there seems to be an issue with the reporting of how long the election results took to report. And if we're going to do a little comparison of facts, we're going to go back to the prior elections and look at how long this took. So in 2020, Bob Litz was the auditor, and in 2024, of course, we have Leah Anderson. From the Secretary of State's website, 2020, we had 93,425 ballots cast. In November 5, 2024, we had 95,648 ballots cast. 200 UOCAVA ballots in 2020, 724 UOCAVA ballots in 2024. And that is before the last day, so it's probably higher than that. Those are the ones that take an extreme amount of time to process. 42,000 total absentees in 2020. 30,000 total absentees in 2024. As of 5:30 p.m. November 4, it was reported that Bob Litz was done counting the ballots. However, election staff that were working here said they were scanning ballots until 10 p.m. 1 p.m., November 6th, the day after the election, Leah Anderson was done counting the absentee UOCAVA and provisionals. 3:44 on November 5, so 2 days after the election, Bob Litz was done counting the provisionals and UOCAVA. The Argus Leader reported in this article here, I brought it here before, Minnehaha County results not tallied as of 4 p.m. And Bob Litz said that they had to recreate the military absentee ballots, which again has been stated multiple times today. It took a long time. No absentee ballots were counted on Tuesday, so they were counting roughly 41,500 ballots on Wednesday, which again, you all know is the date after the 2020 election. Bob Litz said there was a slight delay in starting the vote count on Wednesday after officials realized walk-in and mail-in ballots were not properly merged with other ballots. Bob Litz said, normally absentee ballots are counted on election day, but with the amount of absentee ballots sent this year, officials needed extra time to process them. He also said that election day workers blew through 40,000 absentee ballots. And under Leah's administration, we can tell you they were all carefully reviewed and nobody blew through the stacks of ballots. SDCL 12-1943 says that the election day processing of the absentee ballots can start ahead of the close of the polls, but we cannot count those. So the processing of those ballots has started at 9 a.m. using both of those rooms over there. Jeff Barth, prior county commissioner, said, I think there's just not enough room in the courthouse to bring in the number of people we need to get it accomplished in a reasonable amount of time. I think the auditor did the best she could with the space she had, but they need a much bigger space. Pay attention to that. Make notes for next time, please. Dean Karski said in an interview with Kellerland, fake news, it's confusing why the vote is taking so long. I'm a little confused as to why it would be taking so long. I know a lot of votes have to be counted, but it's not statistically or numerically significantly higher than 4 years ago. We've got newer and better machines. I'm surprised it's taking that long. That is absolutely false. You're using the same machines and they're 4 years older. So that's false information. Also, the county auditors from Lincoln County, Pennington County, Brown County, all over the state said, I've never been here this late, okay? All over the state, they haven't been here this late. Why? Because of the mass amount of absentee ballots and how long it takes to process. So if we want faster results, we need to put an end to the 45-day, no excuse absentee free-for-all. We need to hand count the ballots in the precinct. We'd have results by midnight, and we would spend 90% less money. Hand counting in the precinct would produce a publicly verifiable audit trail and count, and all of this would be reconciled in the precinct. We need to make Election Day a holiday so that everyone can participate and not have to be at work. And we need to return the power to the people, and restore constitutional elections of, by, and for the people. And if we were not centralizing all the ballots in this location, and we had the people doing the work, the auditor's staff wouldn't be staying up for 36 hours straight processing ballots. The people would be doing this because the elections belong to the people, and they need to be conducting these in the precincts. So if we did this, split it up, had the teams that we've recommended, the method we've recommended, none of this wouldn't be in the fake news. So the process needs to be modified. And if we want to cast stones, I think the legislators should look at themselves. Thank you.
Mick Baruth, Sioux Falls. The real story of the 2024 election cycle is the fact that the statewide voter registration and election night reporting system total vote crashed for over 3 hours on Friday, November 1st, 2024. Nevada and New Mexico also experienced data transfer issues with their total vote systems in the 2024 election cycle. We've been warning about this system for 3 years and have written multiple articles about it. Judicial Watch reports Oregon having the most corrupt voter rolls in the country. Oregon also uses total vote. Arizona has the most corrupt elections in the country, and they're using a total vote system. Either the media is too stupid to realize this may be one of the most important stories of 2024, or they're complicit in the cover-up. Bob Litz bragged about how workers blew through 40,000 ballots. Leah Anderson's election workers carefully reviewed all absentee ballots. My understanding is that he shut down the counting of ballots at 1 a.m. the night of the election and came back the next day. Leah and her staff went 33 hours straight. And my understanding is she went home and took a 20-minute nap and a shower and was back at the office. Do you want accurate results or do you want results fast? Do you want a quality product in compliance with the law or do you want elections run fast and loose? November 5th, 2024, the people of the United States of America sent a message to the fake news that no matter the level of lies, deceit, propaganda, and gaslighting, the people see through it. The people of the state of South Dakota saw through the false advertising on Amendment F, G, H, and RL 21, despite the nonstop commercial advertisements funded by George Soros, Hillary Clinton, and the West Coast billionaires. The people of South Dakota said, "Don't California my South Dakota." November 5th, 2024 is the day the lamestream media died. The fake news is dead. How does it feel to have 90% of your reporting for the losers and 90% of the winners that you reported against? How do you sleep at night? Tom Hansen, Stu Whitney, Grant Green, Trevor Mitchell, Josh Heyer, Mackenzie Huber, Kelloland, the Argus Liar, Dakota Fake News Now, your propaganda isn't fooling anyone. And despite your attempts to take her out, Leah Anderson is America's auditor, loved across the country for her bravery and willingness, and step up to a corrupt system. After all, who's watching Kello, Dakota News, and the Argus? The only thing keeping them alive is the advertising from Sanford, Avera, and Billion. They don't need more business. They just need an insurance policy that they get little or no bad press. Fake news, you're fired. Give Leah and Ben... I do have to give Leah and Ben Kite both credit. They're both bowing to the people who put them in their positions. Kite's bowing to the people who appointed him. Leah's bowing to those who elected her. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Scott Montgomery, Lincoln County. You know, this board and the auditor have been at war since she took office. And it needs to stop. There's one commissioner in particular that's attacked her over and over again. He needs to apologize publicly. I mean, you said there was going to be all these lawsuits. Have they started yet? You wouldn't even budget the money for it. You know, back after the primary election, the previous auditor got a substantial raise by this board. After he wasn't going to be elected, he lost. You gave him a substantial raise. Lee Anderson comes in here with nothing against her other than this commission. They beat her down financially, and they've attacked her every chance they get. Go ahead and smirk up there, Kipley, because you're the worst. Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. You know, it's time that this board and the public starts to talk and listen to one another. I don't know what it's going to take. I think the power of God, but you got to quit attacking your auditor. It's the best auditor you've had here. Look at what she's done for this election. I know you all smear because it didn't get done quick. We've offered to get it done quick, and that's a hand count. The law says the ballots will be counted at the precinct. That's what the South Dakota codified law says. And then somebody decided if we're going to have machines, they'll do a better job. So we made rules to use the machines. How about if we go back to the law and start counting them at the precinct? Everybody be out of here in a good fashion. People would believe the election. We wouldn't have these outsiders in our counting our ballots that we don't get to look at. Let's make up somehow. I don't know what it's going to take, but that smirk is not helping anything. I mean, somehow this board and this auditor got to get together. Somehow this board and the public have got to make amends to each other and move on. I don't know what that's going to take, but I think we all better be praying about it. Thank you very much.
Penny Baybridge, Minnehaha County. I also wanted to mention something that I saw. I've been helping with the election. I've been an election worker. And I saw something that to me is a grave concern. It bothers me a great deal. I've informed the auditor, but I also want to let you know. I don't know you can do anything about it, but you should be aware. So I was working at a senior home, helping in the voting, and one of the residents there wasn't registered. And she said, but they came in and I registered. I go, who? Well, there was people here and we filled out registration. I registered, but we didn't have her on the system. And that I wondered who was it that came in and what happened to her registration. On the day of election at 5 p.m., a woman came in and she said that we didn't process her registration. And she was very upset about it. And I said, well, when did you come in or did you mail it to us? Because I'm looking at the system. And she said, well, I did it at church. I said, so you filled it out at church and gave it to some third-party person to bring it to us. I said, we never got it. This is a grave concern to me. I talked to someone else who said that their child had been signed up, registered at school, and whoever it was turned into, we never got it. He came to the polls and wasn't allowed to vote, okay? That form has their date of birth and the last 4 digits of your social security number. Some people put the driver's license, others are putting down the social security number. Having independent third parties picking these things up and being allowed to bring them in, I know the law says that when you give it to the third party, they're supposed to give you their name and their phone number. But most people don't know that. They're just giving it to them and there's no follow-up. But I think it's a grave concern. I don't know what you can do about it, but you should be aware and see about that changing, because these things should not be handled by third parties getting people's social security numbers and date of birth. Thank you.
Any other comments? Excuse me. If not, commissioners have any other comments? Or would like to make a motion to adjourn?
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion unanimously passes. Thank you for coming.